Hello everyone, welcome to today's session where we are going to resume our discussion of the prescribed text from this long narrative poem Sohrab and Rustum. The scene here is beginning from the point when, after struggling between life and death, Sohrab finally succumbed to death and he is lying motionless in the desert with the broken and distressed Rustum by his side. So I'm reading the text now. So on the bloody sand, Sohrab lay dead. So on that blood-soaked sand in the desert, Sohrab is lying dead, like stone dead. And the great Rustum drew his horseman's cloak down over his face. And the great warrior Rustum, the invincible, the incomparable Rustum, is hiding his face down over his face, is hiding his face in his riding cloak. Cloak is a large, long outer garment, and here Rustum is hiding his face in his riding cloak and sat by his dead son, and he's sitting nearby his dead son as those black granite pillars. Now here Arnold is comparing the plight of Rustum with the help of simile. So how Rustum threw himself down in the sand is looking just like those black granite pillars, those black color pillars of granite stone, which once high reared, which once stood high and straight by Jamshid in Persepolis. And those pillars were when the pillars stood high and straight, when they had got built by Jamshid the emperor in his capital city Persepolis. So once when they were stood high and straight, and why he built them? To bear his house, in order to support. The pillars were made to support his high palace. But now amid their broken flights of steps lie prone. But as now after a long passage of time, as now many ages have been passed, so now they are lying broken, they are lying prone means they are lying prostrate, they are lying flat in ruins amid their broken flight of steps. This phrase flights of steps means staircase, and they are now lying flat amid the staircase, the staircase was supported by these pillars once, but now these pillars are lying broken amid this staircase, enormous down the mountain side. And they were lying, they are huge, they are gigantic in their size. So these pillars are now lying flat, and they are measuring their length now by lying flat along with the mountain side. They are lying prostrate now. So such is the condition of Rustum. In the same way, Rustum is lying by his dead son. So in the sand lay Rustum by his son. Next, and night came down over the solemn waste, and the two gazing hosts and that sole pair, and darkened all. So now as night is throwing its darkness, night has thrown its darkness all over. Night came down over now it has thrown its darkness over the solemn waste. Here solemn is for desert, waste, desert. Solemn here conveying the meaning like very desolate and dreadful. The silence with solemn, but the silence of waste is very dreadful. So very desolate and dreadful desert, and night fall over the two gazing hosts, the two horror struck hosts. Who are hosts here? Who are watching? Who has watched that single combat? The two armies, the two horror struck armies, the Persians and the Tatars. The two gazing, they are gazing because they are so struck by this tragedy. Two gazing hosts and that sole pair. And which pair? the single pair of father and son, Sohrab and Rustum. So night, it was seeming like the darkness of the light, and dark and all, like the darkness of night had swallowed all of them, the single pair, the gazing host, two gazing hosts, and the solemn waste. So in this way, night has night had appeared, and a cold fog with night crept from the oxes, and along with night there was a scenery when a cold mist also arose from the Oxus river. From the surface of the Oxus river there was a scenery from where cold mist is appearing. Soon a hum arose as of a great assembly loosed, and very soon there was heard a buzzing sound of low talks, and this murmuring noise was looking just like the noise. This murmuring noise was like when there is again a employment of simile by Arnold, as of and this hum, this low talks, this murmuring noise was looking like that when a huge assembly ends and the people leave the place, and when they move in small groups by talking in low voices, same murmur, same humming sound can be heard at this moment. Soon a hum arose as of a great assembly loosed, because now both the armies are have started moving to their camps. They are going back to their camps. So there was a hum, there was a sound of humming sound, a low talking sound, and fires began to twinkle through the fog, as now the small fires began to shine. The small fires can be seen shining through the mist, because these small fires are lit by both the armies in front of their tents. For now both armies have moved back to their camp and took their meal, and now they have started taking their meal. The Persians took it on the open sands southward. The Persians were taking their evening meal in the open air on the sand in the direction of south, and the Tartars by the river marge. Marge means margin or edge, and Tartars were taking their meal on the margin of the river, edge of the river, and Rustum and his son were left alone. And Rustum and his son, they both were left alone for a time being. Next, but the majestic river floated on out of the mist and hum of that low land into the frosty starlight. But the royal, majestic Oxus river kept floating on, kept flowing on. It kept its flow on, kept flowing on out of the mist and hum of that. It was coming out of the mist and hum of that, as there were slowly buzzing sounds, and it was the river was coming out of that lowly terrain, that land which was lowly. From that lowly terrain, out of the buzzing sound and out of the mist, the river kept its flow on into the frosty starlight, into the frosty light of the stars, and there moved rejoicing through the hushed Corasmian waste under the solitary moon. And there moved, who is moving here? The river Oxus kept on moving happily through the hushed, silenced Corasmian waste. Corasmian here is related to Chorasmia. Chorasmia is a place in Iran, and this place in Iran is Chorasmian waste, and this Chorasmian desert was so silenced under the solitary moon. Now this adjective solitary is also emphasizing the silence and the loneliness of this Chorasmian waste. So this Oxus river is moving happily through the hushed Chorasmian waste under the solitary moon. He flowed right for the polar star, and this river kept on flowing in the direction of the pole star. past Organj, brimming and bright and large. And this river has passed. It has left behind the Organj. Organj is here village on the Oxus river, and it has passed behind Organj. It is full of it is brimful of water. River is brimful of water, and it is shining brightly, and it is growing large in its size. So this is the flow of the Oxus river. Then sands begin. Now before that, the flow of the river was very bright, shiny, large and magnificent, but now sands begin. Now as sands begin, which is creating obstacles in its flow, as let me read it. Then sands begin to hem his watery march and dam his streams and split his currents. So now the sands of the deserts begins, and which is pulling which is stopping it, which is pulling obstacles in its way of the forward flow. As it is flowing forward, the river is flowing forward, and in its way of flowing forward, it is creating obstacles and dam, and it stopped its streams. The stream of the river was stopped and split, and now it has been broken. The flow is broken, and it has been divided into many currents and split his currents, that for many a league the shone and parcelled Oxus strains along. So, and it happened, and it goes on, this creating obstacles, and the Oxus river being splitted into many parts, many streams and many currents. It goes on that for many a mile. Now the river is shown and parcelled. Now the river, and in its wavy path, the river has now torn and had divided into many parts. Oxus strains along, but Oxus is continuing its flow. Oxus labors along with difficulty. Oxus is laboring along with difficulty in its flow through beds of sands, as it is going through beds of sand and matted rushy isle, and there came many isles around which this river turned into this river became intertwined. When islands came, this river matted rushy, this river became intertwined, and like the many sweeps of rushes, it became Oxus. Through beds of sand and matted rushy isles, Oxus, forgetting the bright speed he had, and until this point it has forgotten its bright, its glorious speed which it was having earlier. Where? In his high mountains. When it was in high mountains, when its flow was very speedy, when it was very magnificently flowing, it has forgotten here at when it is going through the bed of sands. In his high mountains, cradle in Pamir. Here cradle in Pamir means when it was born as a spring, when this river Oxus was born as a spring in, and it was cradled in the plateau of Pamir, as it was born in the plateau of Pamir. A foiled, but now it has become a foiled, circuitous wanderer. Foiled, here we can take the sense foiled, baffled or tired. Now it has become very baffled wanderer, baffled struggler or tired struggler, who is now taking or moving in a zigzag course through many labyrinths and maze. A foiled, circuitous wanderer, and it goes on, or it went on till at last the longed for dash of waves is heard. It goes on until the point when the much desired sound is not heard. The dashing sound of now this sound is of which sound? This dashing sound, this much longed means much desired sound of dashing of the waves, this much desired sound of the union of the waves, of its waves, Oxus waves, with the union of the waves with sea, with the Aral sea. The longed for dash of waves is heard. Now till at last when this sound is heard, now the river has become sea. It has merged into sea. So this foiled circuitous wanderer plight has become, or it has come to an end now. Until at last the longed for dash of waves is heard, and wide his luminous home of waters opens. And wide his luminous home of waters opens. Now what is this? What is this luminous, wide, brightly shining and wide home of waters is Aral Sea. This home of waters, of this home of different rivers, opens up for the Oxus River. And how it opens up? With its bright and calm shape. And wide his luminous home of waters opens up in his bright and calm shape. Up to here, now as the river Oxus has been merged into, now it has merged into the Aral Sea, from whose floor, now here whose is for Aral Sea, from whose floor the new bathed stars emerge and shine upon the Aral Sea. So this Aral Sea, the poet is describing this Aral Sea as that from the bottom floor, from the bottom of this Aral Sea, many newly bathed stars rise, and then it shines upon the Aral Sea. Now how it can happen that stars are like newly bathed and they are rising from the sea? So here this is an imagination by Arnold, where he wants to say, or where he wants to convey that when stars appear on the horizon, it seems that they have come up, they have come out from the sea. So that's why it seems that from the bottom of this Aral Sea, newly bathed stars emerge and then they shine upon it. So this is the this is what Arnold very picturesquely described the movement of river. Now in this concluding part, it's very visible, or it's very obvious that we can identify very stark contrast, or we can see the shift of the focus. That poet has shifted his focus from Sohrab and Rustum to the depiction of the beauty of nature, to the movement of this river. And this contrast can be identified as we can say message. We can identify here the message, or we can identify here which Arnold wants to, maybe he wanted to point out about the course of the nature, about the nature, that nature goes on, nature always goes on without any regard of the personal tragedy of any person. As nature, there is no effect, it is rejoicing, it is in its normal or common movement, as it is, as natural it goes, in this way only. And second, we can also find some philosophical insights in this, where the movement of the river, the course of the river, the zigzag, the windy, the wavy course of the river is very much identical to the human life, as originated from the plateau of Pamir, and then the Oxus River very royally or very magnificently flows on through its wavy path, and ultimately it merges with Aral Sea. In the same way, such is the human life. It originated. After originating, it completes its course. It completes anyhow, as it can vary person to person, but anyhow the person has to complete its course in the course of life, and then ultimately it has to merge with the infinite. So there is this philosophical insight can also be observed, and this poem also explores the nature of mortality. So these are the things, or these are the insights which we can derive out, and I encourage you to think about more insights and aspects which we can take out from this poem. And that's all for today. Thank you for listening.